Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. Today our group will present to you about urinary system, subtopic 13.2. And our group consists of Nazmi, Azirul, Adrian, and Kalisa from 4 Delima. I hope you are watching this video while holding a textbook because there is some pictures that we did not include in this slide. So, as you can see in this diagram right here, this is what urinary system consists of. There is kidney, ureter, bladder, urethra. The red line is supposed to be renal artery and the blue one is the renal vein. So, urinary system plays important role in homeostasis. The function of urinary system is to excrete nitrogenous compound waste such as urea, as well as regulate the volume of body fluids, blood osmotic pressure, iron concentration in body fluids, electrolyte content, and blood pH. Structure and function of the kidneys. Kidney consists of cortex and medulla. And the two main functions of kidney is excretion and osmoregulation. As an excretory organ, kidney excretes toxic waste, which is nitrogenous compound such as urea, uric acid, ammonia, and creatinine. As osmoregulatory organ, kidney controls total volume of water in body fluids, the concentration of iron in body fluids, blood osmotic pressure, which is the concentration of dissolved materials and volume of blood and body fluids. And kidney also controls electrolyte content and pH of blood and body fluids. So, what is electrolyte content? Electrolyte content are minerals in the body that carry a negative charge, which is positive or negative. Electrolyte content are found in your blood, urine, and sweats. They are required for various bodily processes, including proper nerve and muscle function, maintaining acid-base balance, and keeping you hydrated. The examples of electrolyte content are sodium and calcium. Now, I will present to you a little bit of cross-section of the kidney. Oxygenated blood from the heart flows into the kidneys by renal artery. These large blood vessels branches into smaller and smaller blood vessels until the blood reaches the nephrons. In the nephrons, your blood is filtered by the tiny blood vessels of the glomeruli. Then, the deoxygenated blood flows out of your kidney to the heart, back through the renal vein. So, I have a fun fact before I end my presentation. So, do you know that the right kidney is located lower than the left kidney? This is because the position of liver, which is above of the right kidney, takes up a lot of space. So this makes the right kidney lower than the left kidney. So that's it for me. Now we will proceed to Nazmi that will present about formation of urine. Thank you.
So today we will learn about formation of urine. The production of urine involves three processes, which are ultrafiltration, reabsorption, and secretion. Okay. This picture known as nephrons. For your information, each kidney is made up of millions of functional units called nephrons. Okay, each nephron is made up of the following structure, which is Bowman capsule. This one is Bowman capsule. Glomerulus. This one is glomerulus. and renal tubule. Renal tubule is this one. Ni nah. Ialah saluran-saluran ni, semua saluran ni kecuali saluran ni. Sebab ini ialah saluran ni ialah collecting duct. Saluran ni ialah renal tubule. Okay. So we move to the next slide. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, Bowman made up of Bowman's capsule, glomerulus, and renal tubules. Okay, Bowman's capsule is cup-shaped and contain cluster of blood capillary, which is glomerulus. Glomerulus is from the efferent arteriole branching from the renal artery, then merge again to form efferent arteriole. Renal tubule composed of proximal convoluted tubules, loop of Henle, which is long U-shape that extend to renal medulla, and the last one is distal convoluted tubules that join from loop of Henle join together into collecting duct. So in this picture we can see, this one is Bowman's capsule, glomerulus. So this is renal artery, and this one from renal artery to glomerulus, this is efferent arteriole, and this is efferent arteriole. Okay, so where is proximal convoluted tubules? From this picture, proximal convoluted is from this point, yes, from this point until this point, is proximal convoluted tubules. Loop of Henle is from the end of proximal convoluted tubules until this. Okay, as you can see, loop of Henle ni dia lebih nipis dan juga lebih kecil daripada proximal dan juga distal convoluted tubule. Okay, distal convoluted tubule pula adalah from loop of Henle until the collecting duct. This is collecting duct. Collecting duct ni ialah tempat saluran untuk kita melakukan perkumuhan, which excretion. Okay. First step to produce urine is ultrafiltration Bowman capsule. Blood that enter the glomerulus is high hydrostatic pressure. It is because diameter of efferent arteriole is larger than efferent arteriole. Bermakna ini yang menghubungkan antara renal artery dan juga glomerulus ni efferent, kena panggil efferent arteriole. Diameter this arteriole is larger, lagi besar, contoh begini besar dia daripada efferent. Efferent ni dia kecil ya begini. Okay, walaupun dia nampak macam sama, tapi sebenarnya dia punya size diameter dia adalah berbeza. Okay, apa yang berlaku apabila ada pressure yang berlaku daripada blood yang masuk ke glomerulus ni? Apa yang akan berlaku ialah fluid seep through the wall of glomerulus capillary into the cavity of Bowman's main capsule. Jadi cecair ni daripada glomerulus ni akan masuk ke dalam ni, akan meresap ke dalam rongga-rongga kosong, dalam rongga-rongga Bowman's ni. Okay, jadi fluids that enter Bowman's capsule, that enter this, is known as glomerular filtrate. Glomerular filtrate. Okay. The glomerular filtrate has the same composition as blood plasma, but doesn't contain red blood cell, platelets, and plasma protein. It is because red blood cell and plasma protein, the size of this cell, this particle, this substance is larger to seep out of the glomerulus. Makna substance tadi itu terlampau besar untuk meresap ke dalam ke dalam Bowman's capsule ni. Untuk meresap ke dalam ni terlampau besar. Jadi apa yang akan jadi, yang benda-benda yang dapat meresap ke dalam ni tadi itu akan remain flowing to the efferent arteriole. Okay. We move to the next, which is reabsorption at the proximal convoluted tubules. Okay, in this stage, which is the second stage, reabsorption of glomerular filtrate occurs along the renal tubules. The dissolved substance permeates across the renal tubular walls into the blood capillary network. Okay, jadi penyerapan akan berlaku. Jadi bermakna benda-benda yang mengalir tadi di proximal convoluted tu, dia akan meresap masuk ke dalam blood capillary. In the proximal convoluted tubule, sodium ion are actively pumped into the blood capillary network, and chloride ions are passively absorbed. The absorption of 100% glucose and amino acid also occur through active transport. The movement of dissolved substance into the blood capillary network reduce the concentration of dissolved substance in the glomerular filtrate, but increase the concentration of dissolved substance in the blood capillary. As a result, water enters the blood capillary through osmosis. Jadi daripada ni kan tadi Bowman capsule. Jadi ni adalah proximal convoluted, ni distal, ni ialah loop of Henle. Jadi benda-benda macam sodium ion, chloride ion, benda-benda yang kena meresap masuk ke dalam Bowman capsule ni akan mengalir. Benda yang mengalir tu kena panggil sebagai glomerular filtrate, akan masuk ke proximal tubule ni untuk diserap masuk ke dalam blood capillary. Jadi benda-benda ni akan untuk sodium dan juga glukos dan amino acid, dorang akan meresap masuk ke dalam blood capillary through active transport. Klorin pula akan masuk through passive transport, and water macam biasa akan meresap masuk melalui osmosis, proses osmosis. Jadi benda-benda ni dia akan masuk untuk menstabilkan kita punya sel-sel yang terdapat di dalam badan, untuk stabilkan nutrien-nutrien yang terdapat di dalam badan kita. Jadi macam biasalah, kalau benda-benda ni sudah masuk ke dalam darah kita, concentration dalam darah kita akan jadi lebih tinggi berbanding yang di dalam proximal tubule ni. Jadi glomerular filtrate ni dia akan less concentration daripada benda yang terdapat di dalam, daripada blood substance yang terdapat di blood capillary. Okay. The third stage is reabsorption at the loop of Henle and distal convoluted tubule. In this water, in the loop of Henle, water is reabsorbed through osmosis. Sodium ions are reabsorbed through active transport. In distal convoluted tubules, more water, sodium, and chlorine ions are reabsorbed. The amount of total of water and salt reabsorbed depends on the water and salt content in the blood. Okay, jadi di sini in this stage mungkin kamu akan tertanya-tanya betul kenapa berlakunya lagi penyerapan sodium, penyerapan water, penyerapan klorin segala-galanya tuh, betul. Oke, kenapa dekat proximal convoluted tubules tuh ndak hanya glukos dan amino acid yang 100% kena serap? Kenapa tidak sodium dan juga klorin dan juga water? Sebab these 3 substance nih adalah yang akan benda yang akan dibuang. Tapi sebelum dia betul-betul mau buang tuh benda, dia akan dekat distal nih brain akan bagi instruction, akan bagi impulse kepada distal sama ada mau buang ataupun mau absorb balik. Sebab badan kita nih terdiri daripada darah, betul. Jadi darah tuh komponen yang paling besar di dalam dia ialah water. Jadi bayangkan kalau kita terlampau banyak minum air, jadi darah tu pun dia akan terlampau banyak air. Jadi apabila darah tu terlampau banyak air, dia perlukan sodium untuk kasih stable dia punya concentration. Sama juga kalau macam kita buat air sirap. Kalau kita buat air sirap, kenapa kita first kita letak air sirap, kita taruh kita letakkan air biasa, air jernih, air putih, lepas tu kita letakkan sirap. Pas kita letakkan sirap, kita akan rasa dulu, betul. Jadi begitu juga dengan kita punya brain kita akan pastikan dulu sama ada concentration dekat darah tu stable ataupun tidak untuk darah tu berada dalam badan kita. Jadi contoh macam tadi air tu, kalau kita sudah letakkan tu air sirap, tapi kalau kita masih rasa tawar, kita akan letakkan lagi sirap, betul, untuk jadikan air sirap tu menjadi orang bilang cukup manis dah. Begitu juga dengan dekat ni blood. Jadi dekat blood ni dia mesti dekat distal sebelum dia buang tu klorin, sodium, water tu, dia brain akan bagi impulse dulu sama ada mau buang ataupun ambil tu substance tu untuk pastikan blood dalam concentration of blood berada dalam keadaan optimum. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is the second last step, which is secretion. Okay, secretion is the process of secreting waste materials in the blood that are not filtered earlier into the renal tubules. This process is opposite to the process of reabsorption. Secretion occurs along the renal tubule and collecting duct, but is more active at the distal convoluted tubule. Secretion occurs through simple diffusion and active transport. Substances that are secreted include hydrogen ion, potassium ion, ammonium ions, urea, creatinine, toxic substance, and some drugs. Secretion gets rid of toxic waste and helps to regulate the level of ions in the blood. Jadi proses membuang secretion ni berlaku untuk buang benda-benda yang berlebihan daripada badan kita. Contoh macam tadilah, kalau badan kita terlebih garam, badan kita terlebih sodium ataupun terlebih water, ataupun badan kita ada makan benda-benda yang bertoksit, contoh macam pelarut makanan ke benda-benda yang toksit lah. Jadi di sini akan berlakunya proses secretion, penyingkiran bahan-bahan tersebut. Okey. Secretion ni aktif berlaku di distal convoluted tubule. Jadi bermakna dekat collecting duct ni dia tinggal buang je. Dekat distal ni yang akan menentukan sama ada mau buang ataupun tidak, begitu. Okay. Last one is urine formation. Okay. The last step is when the renal fluid reach the collecting duct, only a small amount of salt are left and most of the water has been absorbed back into the bloodstream. The remaining renal fluid is now called urine, flows down the collecting duct. Here a small amount of urea diffuse out into the surrounding fluid and blood capillaries due to its small molecular size. Urine contains water, urea, and salt, NaCl, uric acid, and creatine. After leaving the collecting duct, urine flows through the ureter, bladder, urethra, and is finally excreted. Okay. Jadi apabila dia sudah di step yang terakhir ni, renal fluid yang tinggal kini dikenali sebagai urine. Jadi urine yang last sekali ni, dekat last step ni, selalunya yang banyak terdapat ialah salt. Sebab kebanyakan air sudah diabsorb masuk ke dalam darah. Tapi itu semua bergantung kepada concentration of blood kita. Kalau blood kita terlebih air, garam yang akan sikit. Sebab tu warna urine kita berbeza-beza. Based on color urine tu, kita dapat tahu kita punya keadaan body kita, keadaan apa yang berlaku di dalam body kita, sama ada kita hydrated kah ataupun dehydrated. Okay, so this is the indicator penentu sama ada anda hydrated ataupun dehydrated. Tapi yang ni dia tidak 100% betul. Sebab ada certain mungkin warna urine dia akan berbeza-beza. Mungkin ada yang lain daripada lain warna dia, tapi yang ni yang selalunya orang akan tengok lah. Jadi at first tu ternampak dia warna putih dan juga warna kuning cair. Jadi kalau kita punya urine warna begini, bermakna badan kita cukup air, hydrated. Jadi kalau warna urine kita berada pada tahap 3 dan juga 4, bermakna kita masih hydrated, tapi kita perlu minum untuk pastikan badan kita fully hydrated. Okay. Jadi untuk pada tahap 5 dan 6, badan kita kini berada pada paras dehydrated, memerlukan air. Kalau tidak, badan kita akan kekurangan air, concentration of blood kita akan berkurang. Concentration of blood kita akan menjadi tidak stabil, berada dalam keadaan tidak optimum. Lepas tu dia akan work inefficiently. Okay. And 7 and 8 pada tahap 7 dan juga 8, bermakna badan kita betul-betul memerlukan air yang segera. Okay, so this is kidney. Ini kidney, di sini kidney. Jadi tadi urine tu akan tahsil dekat stage yang kelima. Urine tu akan mengalir ke collecting duct. Lepas collecting duct, urine akan mengalir ke ureter. Lepas ureter akan masuk ke bladder, dan akhir sekali lepas ke bladder dia akan masuk ke urethra, dan urethra akan keluar, dan the fluid now is already secret to the toilet. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you.
Of homeostasis and osmoregulation. So osmoregulation is the process of regulating the balance of water and salt in the body to maintain blood osmotic pressure. So ianya satu proses yang mengekalkan range blood osmotic pressure. Oke, paham? Dia yang prosesnya dia buat dia kekalkan blood osmotic pressure itu supaya tidak lebih ataupun tidak kurang. Okay, paham. Okay, good, next. Okay, we move on to the first scenario, which is drink too much water. So what will happen when you drink too much water is that first your blood osmotic pressure drops below the normal range. So this blood osmotic pressure, they have a certain range that is ada satu range nih yang dia boleh dikategorikan sebagai normal. Jadi dia macam pressure itu dia akan turun kurang daripada yang normal. Okay, then osmoreceptors in the hypothalamus are less stimulated. Okay, you understand? Okay, good. And then the next one is pituitary gland. Pituitary gland is less stimulated, and then less ADH is secreted from the pituitary gland. Okay, and then they cause the distal convoluted tubule and collecting duct less permeable. As you know, an increase in blood osmotic pressure creates a negative feedback mechanism in the hypothalamus. Okay, an increase in blood osmotic pressure creates a negative feedback mechanism in the hypothalamus. And then less water is absorbed from the renal fluid into the blood capillary. Less water is absorbed from the renal fluid into the blood capillary, and then the resulting urine is more diluted and bigger in volume, which is less concentrated urine. Jadi maksud dari sini kencing kau dia akan kurang kuning, dia akan lebih transparent, kurang lebih kuning sebab kau minum banyak air. Lepas tu memang kau akan banyak kencing sebab kau banyak minum air, kau akan banyak kencing. Okay, jadi kau ingat ya, kalau minum banyak air, kencing kamu kurang kuning. Kalau kamu nak minum air, kencing kamu kuning. Okay, paham? Sama juga macam kalau kamu ndak beristighfar selalu, otak kamu akan jadi kuning. Ndak apa. Sorry. Okay, lepas tu sorry. And then next we blood osmotic pressure returns to the normal range. Okay, get it? You guys understand? The adrenal gland is stimulated to release aldosterone. The distal convoluted tubule and collecting duct become more permeable to mineral salts. More salts is reabsorbed into the blood. So that's why the blood osmotic pressure returns to normal range. Okay, and then we move on to the second scenario. Wait a minute, yeah. So the second scenario is drink too little or lose too much water. So what will happen if you drink too little or lose too much water is the first thing that will happen is your blood osmotic pressure increases above normal range. So your blood osmotic pressure increase more than the normal range. Like I said, there has a certain range that is categorized to be normal, and then it rise. I mean, it dia akan melebihi range normal itu. Okay, paham. Okay. And then the adrenal gland is not stimulated to release aldosterone, hence a lesser amount of salt is reabsorbed. You understand? You hear me? The adrenal gland is not stimulated to release aldosterone, hence a lesser amount of salt is reabsorbed. And in the second one, osmoreceptors in the hypothalamus detect the increase in blood osmotic pressure and are stimulated. Osmoreceptors in the hypothalamus detect the increase in blood osmotic pressure and are stimulated. So if you cannot hear me, just rewind this video a couple times, yeah. Good. And then the next one, the pituitary gland is stimulated to secrete more ADH into the blood. And the next one, high ADH make the distal convoluted tubule and collecting duct more permeable. So the higher level of ADH causes the distal convoluted tubule and collecting duct to be more permeable to water. And next one, more water is reabsorbed from the renal fluid into the blood. And the next one is the resulting urine is very concentrated and low volume generated. The resulting urine is more concentrated and lesser in volume. So kamu kencing sedikit tapi dia kuning, paham nggak? Apalagi yang macam kalau kamu puasa kan, sampai 1 hari nak minum air, kencing kamu akan kuning keemas-emasan, macam air mangga gitu. Dia itu maknanya tidak sehat, maknanya itu tidak sehat. Okay, lepas tu the lower osmotic pressure creates a negative feedback mechanism which reduces the activity of the osmoreceptors. The osmoreceptors stop stimulating the pituitary gland to secrete more ADH. And then the blood osmotic pressure returns to normal range. So, yep, that's all from me. Sorry kalau banyak merapu. If you don't understand anything, you can ask me in the comment. And sorry for the banyak gangguan tadi masuk. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.